Hey everyone, this is Philip, and this is the best of the week for the Everyday Fighter podcast.
I think if we don't start with some kindness, compassion, and empathy, we have no chance of really building a better life for ourselves or others. Like you really have to. I call it getting on the other side of the wall. So if I'm standing on one side of the wall, a wall, and it's 10 foot tall and 100 feet wide, and you're on the other side and you're going, and we're having an argument, and I'm going, this wall is gray and it's cold and hard. It's concrete, and I'm standing on gravel. And you're going, no, it isn't. This wall is bamboo, and I'm standing on grass. And we're arguing over it. We know it's the same wall, but the problem is if I walk around, I actually see, wait a minute, his side of the wall is bamboo. It is grass. And if you were to walk over on my side of the wall, you would see that it's gray, cinder block, whatever. But unless one of us takes the action to go and look, you know what I mean? We are just locked in place, and all we're going to do is argue and fight. And it doesn't matter whether it's on a martial arts mat or around the kitchen table or in the office at work, until one of us walks over to the other side of the wall and goes, oh, I see what you're talking about. It is different than what I see. Then we have a chance of maybe making some progress. Doesn't mean I have to capitulate. Me walking on your side of the wall does not mean I'm going to give up what I am trying to accomplish. It just lets me see things from your perspective. And I think when we start to see things a little bit better, more honestly from another person's perspective, it's easier to have empathy, be more patient, and I've never known anybody to excel in. I've never known the common person to excel in the martial arts with a whip at their back. Like it's that teacher, that Mr. Miyagi kind of guy who's firm but patient. He's stern, but he's also understanding of your limitations, and he applies his firmness and his compassion at the right points. It's not distorted in general. So that's kind of it for me. I've worked at it. I've tried to work at it.
Now, it's absolutely work to get to that point, particularly with other folks and other folks that present you very challenging situations, right?
Absolutely.
Completely different, I'd say, or just to get a different beast from the same source when you apply it to yourself, right? In terms of compassion, patience, granting yourself grace. What is that like for you?
That's been way harder. I think in general, most of us are way harder on ourselves than we ever would be on anybody else. I was finishing up I finished up the first draft of my book just this morning, and there was a part of it that I finished writing today speaking to that. Like, I use language with my internal dialogue when I'm talking, that dialogue in your head. Yeah. Like, it's brutal. It is so brutal with myself sometimes. Now, I've gotten better at it. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine pointed out to me, he says, Mark, do you ever listen to yourself? Like when you talk about yourself, do you ever listen to the language you use? You are so harsh with yourself. Now, other people have said that over the years, but they didn't say it quite like that. It might be, oh, don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah. But this guy asked me a question. When we ask people questions, a lot of times we have to pause and we have to think about the question. And then if you're being thoughtful, you're going to think it through and give an answer. And for me, that was a real wake-up call. Here I was, I wanted to be a great teacher, kind of that Master Po, Mr. Miyagi, grasshopper guy. And And yet I was brutal with myself.
Mm.
And I've come to the conclusion that you're only going to go so far until you actually learn to love yourself. Like, you have to learn to apply that grace, that compassion, that understanding, that patience to you, just as you might do for anybody else. And I know not everybody's patient with other people. You've probably had more than one martial arts instructor that may have showed you the technique 3 times and said, okay, do it. That was kind of my instructor. He literally would show me 3 times. Then the question would be, do you understand? The appropriate answer was yes, sir. And then you're kind of left to your devices, racking your brain going, I really don't understand this.
Yeah.
And then you start practicing, and then, you might try a follow-up question. But we really have to learn to be kind to ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to have to will ourselves forward to be kind and compassionate with other people, because we kind of run out of gas. And so then it's just willpower. You can't exceed for very long to treat other people better than you're willing to treat yourself.
Whoa.
You can try, and you might even be successful, but you're going to run out of gas because you no longer have capacity. You're going to outreach it. And until you find more capacity, which means that treating yourself that way first so that you can better serve others, you're just going to run out of steam.
Well, my dad's a former Army Ranger, and he had a black belt in judo before he even joined the military. And there are a lot of stories from the military. My dad's very, very modest. He doesn't like talking about that stuff. But one of the stories I heard was that when he went in to Ranger school, the sergeant wanted to bring him up as a dummy, somebody to toss around, right? And the sergeant proceeded to try and throw my dad. And my dad set his center, and the sergeant could not get him off the ground. And then when he invited my dad to show him a thing or two, my dad totally plowed the guy. So they made my dad the instructor for the hand-to-hand combat piece.
Talk about adjustment right there.
Yeah. And he went on to do that in Ranger school. After he passed, he became the hand-to-hand instructor.
Wow.
And, and there were times where people picked fights with him in the bar, and he just totally demolished the guy. And keep in mind, my dad is like 150 pounds soaking wet, skinny guy, but he can totally hold his own, very wiry. So I grew up with him as my dad. And when he heard that I was getting bullied.
And this was in elementary school?
It was in middle school,
middle school.
Junior
Okay.
high back in the day.
Yeah.
He took me aside and he says, I want to show you some stuff. So he started teaching me some basic punches, some kicks that I would practice. And then the day came where one of the bullies decided that he was going to use me as a way to increase his social capital. So he announced to all his friends and says, hey, walk home with me. I'm going to kick this kid's butt. Yeah. And I'm walking home and I see this crowd behind me. I had no idea what was going on. And this kid, I had no idea that he had such an issue with me. So he gets in front of me and he starts pushing me and says, hey, you're a jerk. I don't like you, whatever. And I'm puzzled because for all intents and purposes, I'm much more of a nonviolent kind of guy. So I said, hey, man, I don't want to fight you. What? I got no issue with you. What's the big deal here? And he said, well, tough. We're going to fight. And he wraps his arms around me and he starts trying to punch me in the kidneys or whatever. So I get loose. I push him back, punched him a couple times in the face, landed a solid side kick and knocked him on his butt. And I looked down at him and he was completely puzzled. And I looked at him and I said, can we stop this now? and he gets up. Yeah, he gets up and he shakes my hand and says, okay, man, all right. And everybody else around him goes, Oh man, come on. And he walked off. And the best part about this story, besides the fact that it got around what had happened, was that his best friend, who was there watching, thought that his best friend was now a great big jerk. He saw how I handled myself. And the next day he came to my locker. He told me basically what I just told you. Hey, man, I was there yesterday. I'm so-and-so. You don't know me. I really was impressed by the way you handled yourself. Hey, would you like to come over to my house sometime? That guy became my best friend for the next 12 years.
So after I was done playing football, I said I graduated high school at 240 pounds. I had gotten up to 280 pounds. And it was bad. There's obviously no self-esteem at that point.
Couple that with the pain that you were feeling as well.
And being in pain all the time. And just like, I was so, afraid of being alone because you think you're overweight, you're going to be alone. No one wants to date a fat guy. And so it was just like, because I had no self-esteem, that was just my mentality. So it was just snowballing. It's like, no one wants to be with me. So, might as well give up. But I want acceptance. I want people to love me. And so I would just like put myself in these groups of friends that were just like terrible friends that, would just, like, I literally had a friend tell me, dude, you're like a dog. Like, I could beat you and you'd still be loyal to me. Like, literally, that was what he said to me. Like, and I was just like, yeah. In my mind, I was like, yeah, that's good. I'm loyal. I'm a good friend. And I had no self-esteem. It was bad.
Was he saying that to you in a way that was, he's making fun of you, or was he saying that to you in a way that was trying to wake you up?
It was not trying to wake me up.
Okay.
It was in a way that he was just verbalizing his feelings towards me. Was just like, dude, like he even said, it was like, it sounds bad, but honestly, like, I know that there's nothing at risk with you. Like, I could do whatever I wanted and you're still just going to be there. And it wasn't like, but when he said like, you're like a dog, like I could beat you and you're still going to like be loyal to me. I was like, that don't sound good. That's not good. That's not good at all. So yeah. And then I went to Universal Studios and I was going to get on one of the roller coasters and I was too fat to ride in the regular seats. I had to sit in the extender seats. And like,
they had seats specifically for,
they
were larger.
Yes. Yeah. They have larger seats with, bigger seat belts and, everything. And it's a whole row. So like you get on that row and it's all overweight people. And me and my brother both like had to sit in these seats. And so we like took a picture next to that sign. And that's a picture I use for a lot of my motivational speaking to show how big I was. I was walking around the park just so depressed that day. And I'm like, that person's bigger than I am. Like, how are they? They're a lot bigger than I am. How are they like enjoying their time here? Because they can't get on anything. And I was like, what are they like? What is going on? Like, how I'm that big that the world has to accommodate for me. That the world has to like make special. I'm that big. Like, I didn't know. I didn't realize I was that big. Because everyone always just, whenever I made comments about being fat, everyone would just be like, no, you're a football player. You're built. Because I was like evenly proportionate. Like, I wasn't like, I had a big belly, but everything on me was big. So they're just like, you just look like a football player. I'm like, yeah, but I'm 5'9" and I don't play football. So I shouldn't look like a lineman, So that trip really like started weighing on me, like my mind, that I needed to change something. And I just started thinking about it. So that was in October of 2000. That was in October of 2010. And by December, one of my roommates that I lived with at the time, he was also bigger as well. He would just go running in the morning. And he that's all he'd do. He didn't change his diet at all. He didn't do anything special. He just started running. So I could see him getting smaller. I could see him getting thinner. And you don't normally see that. When you live with somebody, you don't see that much of a change because you see them every day. But I was like, dude, he's like getting lean. All he's doing is run. And it was 20 minutes. It wasn't like a 7-mile run. It was 20 minutes. And I was like, all of a sudden competitive Matt kicked in. And I was like, well, he's big like me. And I bet if I start running every day and start eating right and start exercising, that I'm going to do that same thing too. And I'll do it faster and I'll do it better. And so January 1st, 2011.
So it's not like you hadn't heard of these things before.
Right.
Right.
No, I knew what to do.
Yeah.
And I would go to the gym occasionally. And I was always one of those guys who's like, I hate cardio. I hate running, And so I'd go lift like I was a football player, like I did in high school. So I wasn't unfamiliar with the gym.
Yeah.
But I just, January 1st, 2011, I walked into Gold's gym and I got on the treadmill and I put it on a full incline and I put it at a 3 and I walked for a half hour and I turned around and walked out of the gym. And January 2nd, I walked back into the gym, got back on the treadmill, did another half hour, turned around and walked out. January 3rd, January 4th, got to the point where I was doing a full hour on the treadmill at that speed. And then I got incline the whole time. And then after that, I went from a full hour of incline to a full hour of incline and a half hour on the bike to a full hour of incline, a full hour on the bike to a full hour of incline, full hour of bike, half hour in the pool, full hour, and then to full hour of incline, 4 hour of bike, full hour in the pool. So at the peak, I was doing 3 hours of cardio a day.
Wow. And
I lost 100 pounds in 5 months. And I said, competitive Matt wins again.
I see. Yeah. How did it turn out with your roommate there? Did you cheat him?
We're not friends anymore.
No.